Get off him right now. You belong to me. What are you doing with this guy?
When Kendra Williams sat on the lap of the city's most dangerous mafia boss to escape her psychotic ex, she expected to die, not to hear him whisper in her ear like a promise wrapped in velvet, "Play along, Cara. I'll protect you." Kendra had always believed that rock bottom had a basement, and she'd been renovating that basement for the past 6 months with the dedication of someone on HGTV, but without the budget, the crew, or the hope of a dramatic reveal. At 24, she was a single mother, a triple-shift worker, and a professional ghost, the kind of person who cleaned luxury restaurants while praying the wealthy patrons never actually saw her. La Corona d'Oro was her Thursday night purgatory, all gleaming marble and chandeliers that probably cost more than her daughter Nia's entire future college fund. The kind of place where Kendra scrubbed floors that rich people's shoes barely touched, where the bathroom soap dispensers had better lives than she did. She'd been invisible. For 3 months, perfectly, blessedly invisible. Until Derek Mitchell decided that boundaries were suggestions and restraining orders were just expensive paper. Kendra, Kendras. His voice shattered the elegant murmur of the dining room like a brick through a stained glass window. Kendra's hands froze on her mop, her heart doing that terrible thing where it simultaneously stopped and raced, like a car stuck between gears. She could see him through the service corridor, Derek, her ex, her mistake, her nightmare in a wrinkled button-down that screamed, "I make terrible decisions and blame everyone else." He was pushing past a server, his face red with that manic energy that always preceded the worst nights. The nights when Kendra had learned to make herself small, to become furniture, to disappear. "Sir, you need to leave." "Don't touch me. I'm here for my family." Family, the word was acid in Kendra's ears. Derek had never wanted a family. He'd wanted an audience for his failures and a scapegoat for his debts. When his business ventures, which turned out to be buying stolen electronics and somehow selling them for less than he paid, landed him in trouble with actual criminals, he decided Kendra's savings account was his emergency fund. She'd taken Nia and run, simple as that, not dramatic, not planned, just grabbed her daughter, 2 suitcases, and her grandmother's Bible, and disappeared into Chicago's South Side like smoke in winter. But Derek had found her. Of course he had. Men like Derek always did, because the universe had a sick sense of humor and apparently thought Kendra needed more character development. "I know she's here, someone better." Kendra didn't think. Thinking was a luxury for people who had time and options. She had neither. She dropped her mop with a clatter that made a nearby waiter jump, grabbed her cleaning bucket, because apparently she was taking props to her own execution, and ran, not toward the exit because Derek was blocking the main corridor, not toward the kitchen because that was a dead end. She ran toward the one place she absolutely, positively should not go, the private dining room where Maximo Emiliano was hosting what the entire staff had been warned was a critical business meeting, which was restaurant code for "people are probably discussing things that would interest the FBI." Behind her, Derek's footsteps thundered, "Kendra, don't you run from me." The double doors loomed ahead, ornate and forbidding, like the gates to either salvation or hell. Kendra couldn't tell which, and she didn't have time to care. And she burst through them. The scene before her looked like something out of a movie, the kind where everyone dies in the 3rd act. A long table stretched beneath a chandelier that threw golden light across men in suits that cost more than Kendra's yearly salary. At the head of the table sat Maximo Emiliano, and sweet Jesus, the rumors didn't do the man justice. He was beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful, all sharp angles and controlled power, dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved by someone who understood that symmetry was just organized danger. His eyes found hers instantly, dark and assessing, the kind of eyes that saw everything and forgot nothing. The entire room went silent. Kendra's yellow rubber gloves, still dangling from her bucket, fell to the floor with a wet slap that somehow sounded deafening. Then Derek crashed through the doors behind her, and time did that thing where it became taffy, stretching, slowing, giving Kendra just enough space to make the worst decision of her life. Or maybe the best. She'd never be sure. Her feet moved before her brain caught up, carrying her across expensive carpet toward the most dangerous man in Chicago. Maximo didn't move, didn't even blink, just watched her approach with the kind of stillness that big cats had before they struck. Kendra stopped in front of him, her heart hammering so hard she could taste it. Then she sat down, on his lap, on Maximo Emiliano's lap, in front of what was clearly some kind of criminal summit, while wearing a denim jacket she'd bought at Goodwill and jeans with bleach stains. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking but steady enough. "He's my ex. Just let me stay here for 1 second, please." For a moment, nothing happened. The universe held its breath. Even Derek had frozen in the doorway, his face cycling through confusion, rage, and something that might have been fear as he realized exactly whose dinner party he'd crashed. Then Maximo Emiliano smiled. It was a slow thing, that smile, predatory and amused, like he'd just been dealt an unexpectedly good hand in a game Kendra didn't know she was playing. His arm came around her waist, solid and warm and possessive in a way that should have terrified her, but instead felt like the first safe thing she'd touched in months. He leaned close, his breath warm. Against her ear, his voice low enough that only she could hear it, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as intoxicating. "Play along, Cara, I'll protect you." Kendra's brain short-circuited somewhere between the Italian endearment and the realization that Maximo Emiliano smelled like expensive cologne and power, the kind of combination that probably came with a warning label she should have read. His hand settled on her hip with the casual possessiveness of someone who owned things, buildings, businesses, possibly several politicians. The weight of it burned through her jeans like a brand. "Gentlemen," Maximo said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that made grown men sit straighter, "it seems we have an interruption." His eyes never left Derek, who stood in the doorway looking like he'd just realized he'd walked into a lion's den wearing a meat suit. The manic energy that had fueled his entrance was draining fast, replaced by the wide-eyed panic of someone whose survival instincts had finally clocked in for their shift. I didn't," Derek stammered. "I'm just here for my girlfriend. This is between me and her." "Ex-girlfriend," Kendra corrected, her voice surprisingly steady considering she was currently perched on a Mafia boss's lap like some kind of deranged trophy. Very ex, extremely ex, dead-end buried ex. Maximo's thumb moved in a slow circle against her hip, a gesture that managed to be both comforting and possessive. "I'm afraid you're mistaken, amico," he said, the Italian word sounding more like a threat than friendship. "This woman is with me, has been for some time now." Kendra's head whipped toward him so fast she nearly gave herself whiplash. The lie was smooth as silk and delivered with the kind of conviction that made you question your own memories. "Isn't that right, Tesoro?" Maximo's eyes met hers and there was something in them, a warning, a question, a dare. Play along. "Right," Kendra heard herself say, her voice only slightly. "Strangled, yes, absolutely, we're very together." One of the men at the table, a silver-haired gentleman who looked like he'd seen everything twice and been unimpressed both times, made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Derek's face cycled through several shades of red. That's bullshit. Kendra, what the hell are you? I suggest, Maximo interrupted, his voice dropping to a register that made the temperature in the room plummet, you watch your tone when speaking to my woman, and I strongly suggest you leave my establishment. Now. Two men materialized from somewhere near the walls, security that Kendra hadn't even noticed, which said something about how expensive and effective they were. They moved like shadows given human form, all muscle and silent menace. Derek took a step back. You can't. She's the mother of my child. I have rights. You have the right to leave before I have you removed in pieces, Maximo said pleasantly, as if discussing the weather. Small pieces, very small, the kind that required dental records to identify. The casual brutality of it should have terrified Kendra. Instead, she felt something else, something hot and fierce that she refused to examine too closely. For 6 months, Derek had been the monster under her bed, the reason she jumped at shadows and kept her phone on silent, the reason she worked 3 jobs and moved apartments twice and learned to make herself invisible. And now he was the one backing away, fear painted across his face like a billboard. This isn't over, Derek said, but his voice cracked on the last word, betraying him. Yes, Maximo said quietly, it is. The security guards moved forward, and Derek finally showed the first intelligent instinct Kendra had seen from him in 2 years. He ran. His footsteps echoed down the corridor, getting fainter, until the heavy sound of the restaurant's front door slamming shut punctuated his exit. Silence settled over the room like snow. Kendra became suddenly, painfully aware that she was still sitting on Maximo Emiliano's lap, that his arm was still around her waist, that she could feel the solid warmth of him beneath her, all controlled strength and expensive tailoring, that every man at this table was staring at them with expressions ranging from amused to calculating to deeply concerned. So, said the silver-haired man, swirling wine in a glass that probably cost more than Kendra's car had, this is unexpected. Are we going to address the fact that our host is now apparently dating the cleaning staff, or are we pretending this is normal? Luca, Maximo said, his voice carrying a warning. I'm just saying, Luca continued, clearly enjoying himself. When you said you had a surprise for us tonight, I was expecting new distribution routes, not a romantic comedy. Heat flooded Kendra's face. She tried to stand, to extract herself from this situation before it got worse, but Maximo's arm tightened slightly, not painful. Just firm, keeping her in place. Actually, Maximo said, his voice thoughtful, this works perfectly. Kendra's stomach dropped. Works perfectly for what? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw the calculation happening behind those dark eyes. Whatever was churning through his mind, she had a feeling she wasn't going to like it. I have a problem, Maximo said. Several, actually. Business rivals who think I'm vulnerable because I'm unmarried. A family back in Sicily who won't stop sending me photos of eligible women like I'm livestock that needs breeding. And a certain FBI investigation that would benefit greatly from seeing me settled, domestic, less threatening. Oh no. And you, he continued, his thumb resuming that maddening circle against her hip, have a problem with an ex who doesn't understand boundaries, who knows where you work, who clearly isn't going to stop. I can handle Derek, Kendra said, even though they both knew it was a lie. Can. You, Maximo's expression was almost gentle. How many times has he found you? How many times have you run? Too many. The answer was too many. What are you suggesting? But Kendra already knew. She could feel it in the air, in the way the men around the table were leaning forward, interest piqued. A mutually beneficial arrangement, Maximo said. You play the part of my girlfriend publicly, convincingly. In exchange, you and your daughter get protection, a place to live, security. Derek will never touch you again. I guarantee it. That's insane, Kendra said. That's practical. I clean your restaurant. And now you'd be dating its owner. Stranger things have happened. Name one. Maximo's smile was slow and dangerous. You sat on my lap in the middle of a business meeting, and I didn't have you thrown out. That's fairly strange. Luca laughed, actually laughed. I like her. She is spine. That's rare in your world, Maximo. Which is exactly why this will work. Maximo said, his eyes never leaving Kendra's face. No one will believe I'd choose someone who fits into my world, but someone unexpected, someone real, that's believable. That's the kind of love story people buy. Love story, Kendra repeated. You want me to fake date you, that's what you're saying. I'm saying we both have problems that solve each other. You need protection. I need someone who makes me look human. We help each other. What would you do if you were in Kendra's shoes? Take a dangerous deal with a mafia boss to protect your child, or try to handle your nightmare ex alone? Drop your thoughts below. Kendra's mind raced. This was crazy, insane, the kind of thing that happened in movies, not to single mothers from the South Side who could barely afford their rent. But Derek's face flashed through her mind. Then Nia's, her beautiful 6-year-old daughter with her gap-toothed smile and fearless laugh. The daughter who'd started having nightmares about the bad man. Coming to their door, who flinched when someone raised their voice. How long? Kendra heard herself ask. Maximo's expression shifted, satisfaction, maybe, or respect. 6 months, long enough to convince everyone it's real. Long enough for me to secure some business deals and get my family off my back. Long enough for your ex to get the message and move on. And after 6 months, we stage a breakup, amicable. You walk away with enough money to start over somewhere Derek will never find you. New identity if you want it, whatever you need. It was a devil's bargain. Kendra knew that. But she'd been making deals with devils since Derek first smiled at her 7 years ago, and she'd been too young and too hopeful to see the poison underneath. At least this devil was honest about what he was. I have conditions, Kendra said. Maximo's eyebrow rose. Bold, I like that. Name them. My daughter stays safe, out of this. She doesn't meet you, doesn't get photographed, doesn't become part of whatever circus this turns into. She's off limits. Agreed. I keep my job, all my jobs. I'm not some kept woman. The restaurant job, yes, the others. Maximo tilted his head. Where else do you work? Morning shift at a diner, weekend nights at a hotel, clining both of them. Something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe, or something uncomfortably close to respect. You're working yourself to death. I'm working to keep my daughter fed. Then we'll renegotiate. You keep this job if you want it, but the others aren't necessary. I'll pay you for your time. Consider it employment. I'm not a prostitute, Kendra said flatly. The room went very still. Even Luca stopped smiling. No, Maximo said, his voice sharp as a blade, you're not. And if anyone suggests otherwise, they'll answer to me. This is a business arrangement, professional. You're providing a service. I'm providing compensation and protection. Nothing more happens unless you want it. Do. The unless hung in the air between them like smoke. Fine, Kendra said, before she could think better of it, before sanity could reassert itself. 6 months, but if Derek comes near my daughter, all bets are off. Derek, Maximo said quietly, will never come near anyone again if he's smart, and if he's not smart, his smile was cold. Well, that problem will solve itself. It should have scared her. It did scare her, but it also made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, safe. Maximo stood then, lifting her with him as if she weighed nothing, setting her on her feet with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. His hands lingered on her waist for a moment before he stepped back. "Gentlemen," he said to the table, "I believe we're done for tonight. We'll reconvene tomorrow to discuss the shipment routes. Right now, I have more important matters to attend to." The men stood, some nodding, others looking between Kendra and Maximo with expressions she couldn't read. Luca paused as he passed, leaning close enough that only she could hear. "Word of advice, girl, Maximo Emiliano doesn't do anything without 5 reasons and a backup plan. Whatever you think this arrangement is, it's more than that. Just watch yourself." Then he was gone, and it was just Kendra and Maximo and the settling silence of an empty room. "So," Kendra said, her voice smaller than she wanted it to be, "what happens now?" Maximo picked up her fallen cleaning bucket, handed it to her with a courtesy that seemed absurd given the circumstances. "Now, we start the performance. Tomorrow, you move into my penthouse. I'll have my people collect your things." "Tomorrow, that's how this works. The longer we wait, the less believable it becomes. Derek needs to see that you're under my protection immediately, and my business associates need to see that I'm serious about this." Kendra clutched the bucket like a lifeline. "This is crazy." "Yes," Maximo agreed, "but we've established that already. The question is, are you brave enough to be crazy with me?" And there, in that expensive room beneath that crystal chandelier, Kendra Williams made the second most dangerous decision of her life. Oh yes, the penthouse was obscene. That was the only word Kendra could find as she stood in the marble foyer the next evening, holding a garbage bag containing her entire wardrobe while a man in an actual suit, not a server's uniform, an actual tailored suit, tried to take it from her. "I can carry my own trash bag, thank you," she said, clutching it tighter. The man, Giuseppe, Maximo had called him, looked pained. "Signorina, please, it's my job." "Your job is to take garbage bags from women." "My job is to assist Mr. Emiliano's guests with their belongings." "Well, I'm assisting myself." Kendra brushed past him into a living room that could have housed her entire apartment building, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chicago's skyline, the city spread out below like someone had dumped a jewelry box of lights across black velvet. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum, all clean lines and leather that probably cost more per square inch than her hourly wage. "Thoughts?" Maximo's voice came from somewhere behind her. Kendra turned to find him leaning against a doorframe, dressed down in slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. It should have made him look casual. Instead, it just made him look like danger wearing business casual. "I think your living room is bigger than the church I grew up in," Kendra said. "I think one of those paintings probably costs more than my daughter's college fund, and I think I have no idea what I'm doing here. Second thoughts. Third, fourth, I've lost count." Maximo moved into the room with that predatory grace she was starting to recognize. "Your daughter is with her babysitter. Her godmother, Shanice. She's keeping Nia for the weekend." "While I get settled," Kendra made air quotes around the words, "I told her I got a promotion, a live-in position managing the restaurant's events. She thinks I'm moving up in the world." "Aren't you?" I'm lying to everyone I know to pretend date a crime boss. That's not moving up. That's moving sideways into a bad decision. I prefer entrepreneur with flexible morals, Maximo said dryly. Come, I'll show you your room. He led her through a hallway lined with art that Kendra was afraid to look at too closely in case it was actually famous, stopping at a door near the end. The bedroom beyond was larger than her entire apartment, decorated in soft grays and creams, with a bed that could sleep four and windows that overlooked the lake. This is mine, Kendra asked. For the next 6 months, your bathroom is through there. The closet is empty. We'll remedy that tomorrow. You'll need clothes appropriate for the role. What's wrong with my clothes? Maximo's gaze traveled over. Her faded jeans, her discount track sweater, her sneakers with the hole forming near the toe. His expression wasn't judgmental, exactly, but it was assessing in a way that made her want to either hide or punch him. Nothing is wrong with your clothes for you, he said carefully, but if you're going to be seen as my partner, you'll need to dress the part. We have our first public appearance tomorrow night, a charity gala. Tomorrow, that's, Kendra stopped, took a breath. You know what, at this point I shouldn't be surprised. You move fast. I move efficiently. There's a difference. Was there? Something that might have been amusement crossed his face. Dinner is at 7. Giuseppe will show you to the dining room. I suggest you settle in, rest. Tomorrow will be, he paused, challenging. After he left, Kendra sank onto the bed, which was somehow softer than clouds and probably cost more than a car, and pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls from Derek, 7 texts each. One more unhinged than the last. You think you're safe with him. He's using you. I'll get Nia, watch, you can't hide her forever. This isn't over. Her hands shook as she blocked the number. Again, the 4th time in 6 months. A knock at the door made her jump. Oh, yes. Giuseppe entered, carrying a tablet. Mr. Emiliano asked me to have you review these documents, the contract for your arrangement. He said you should read it thoroughly and let him know if you have questions. The contract was 15 pages long and written in language that made Kendra's head hurt, but she forced herself to read every word, looking for traps, for loopholes, for the places where Maximo's protection turned into ownership. What surprised her was that she didn't find any. The terms were exactly what he'd promised. 6 months, a monthly stipend that made her eyes water, protection for her and Nia, and a clean exit at the end with enough money to disappear. There was even a clause about her maintaining custody of her daughter, about Nia's safety being paramount, about Kendra having final say on anything involving her child. It was fair, suspiciously fair. At dinner, served in a dining room with a table that could seat 20, but was set for 2, Kendra signed the contract, while Maximo watched over a glass of wine that probably cost more than her monthly rent. You read it, he observed. Every word twice. And either you're the most honorable criminal in Chicago, or you're very good at hiding the catch. Perhaps both, Maximo cut into his steak with surgical precision. Tell me about your daughter. Kendra stiffened. I told you she's off limits. I'm not asking to meet her. I'm asking you to tell me about her. If we're going to convince people we're together, I should know the most important person in your life. It was logical. It made sense. And yet Kendra found herself hesitating because talking about Nia felt like opening a door she wasn't sure she could. Glows. She's 6, Kendra said finally. Smart as hell, too smart sometimes. Wants to be a scientist. loves dinosaurs, hates vegetables, has a stuffed turtle named Dr. Shellstein that she's had since she was 2. The words came easier now, warming her from the inside. She asks a million questions, wants to know how everything works. Last week she took apart the toaster to see inside. Could she put it back together? No, we ate untoasted bread for 3 days. Kendra smiled despite herself. She's everything good I've ever done, the only thing I got right. Maximo was quiet for a moment. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. Kendra met his eyes across the table, which is why I need to know, really know, that this arrangement won't put her in danger. Because if it does, if anything happens to her because of this world you live in. It won't, Maximo said, and there was something in his voice that made her believe him. Something hard and sure and final. I give you my word, your daughter is protected. Anyone who even thinks about threatening her will answer to me personally. Why? Kendra asked. Why do you care? This is just business to you. Because, Maximo said quietly, I understand what it means to protect someone you love, and because, despite what you might think, I'm not a monster. Just a man with flexible morals. Exactly. They finished dinner in companionable silence, and Kendra found herself relaxing despite everything. Maximo was, not what she'd expected. Dangerous, yes. Controlled, absolutely. But there was something underneath that, something almost human. Almost. At 9, Kendra's phone rang. Shanice's name flashed on the screen. Hey girl, how's the fancy new digs? Shanice's voice was warm, familiar, safe. Overwhelming, Kendra admitted, walking to the windows. But good, how's Nia? Asleep already. We made pillow forts and had a dinosaur tea party. She's out like a light. A pause. Kendra, you sure about this? This job, I mean, it seems sudden. Guilt twisted in Kendra's stomach. I'm sure. It's good money. Better than I've ever made. And it's safe, which is what matters. Safe from Derek. Especially from Derek. Another pause, longer this time. You know I've got your back, right? Whatever this is, whatever you need, I'm here. Tears pricked Kendra's eyes. I know, I love you. Love you too, sis. Now go enjoy your mansion or whatever. Some of us still live in the real world. After she hung up, Kendra stood at the window, watching the city lights blur. She was doing this for Nia. For safety, for a future, for 6 months of not looking over her shoulder. She just hoped the price wasn't higher than she'd calculated. The next morning, Kendra woke to find her room had been invaded. Good morning, Signorina. A woman in her 50s with perfect posture and an Italian accent that could cut glass stood at the foot of her bed. Flanked by 2 younger women carrying garment bags. I am Francesca. Mr. Emiliano has hired me to prepare you for tonight's gala. We have much work to do. What? Kendra sat up, clutching the sheets. What time is it? 8 o'clock. We have 10 hours. It's not enough, but we'll manage. Francesca clapped her hands. Up. First we dress you, then hair, makeup, deportment. Deportment. How you walk, how you stand, how you hold a champagne glass without looking like you're at a frat party. You're dating Maximo Emiliano. The world will be watching. You must be perfect. 4 hours later, Kendra wanted to die. She'd been measured, primped, plucked, and poured into more dresses than she'd worn in her entire life. Francesca had opinions on everything, her posture. You walk like you're apologizing for existing. Her voice, project confidence, not questions. Even how she held her hands, not like you're about to catch something, Dio mio. But when Francesca finally stepped back, satisfied, and turned Kendra toward the mirror, the woman staring back was a stranger. The dress was midnight blue, simple but elegant, hugging curves Kendra had forgotten she had before flowing to the floor in a way that suggested water and moonlight. Her hair, usually pulled back in a practical bun, fell in waves around her shoulders. The makeup was subtle but transformative, highlighting her cheekbones, making her brown eyes look luminous. "Who is that?" Kendra whispered. "That," Francesca said with satisfaction, "is a woman who belongs on Maximo Emiliano's arm. Now, we practice walking in heels." By 6:30, Kendra could walk in the death trap shoes without falling, hold a champagne glass without looking like she was gripping a weapon, and make small talk about topics she'd learned from the crash course Francesca had put her through. She felt like a fraud. "You look beautiful." Kendra turned to find Maximo in the doorway, dressed in a tuxedo that should've been illegal. He looked like every fantasy she'd never let herself have, dangerous and elegant and wholly unattainable. "I look like I'm playing dress-up," Kendra said. "You look," Maximo corrected, moving closer, "like exactly who you're supposed to be tonight, like someone who chose to be here, not someone who was forced." He stopped in front of her, his eyes serious. "Are you ready?" "No, yes." "Remember, we're in love, believably in love. You look at me like I'm your whole world. I look at you like you're mine. We sell this, and everyone believes it." "And if I can't?" "You can." Maximo's hand came up, gentle, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, practiced, and it sent electricity down her spine. "You're stronger than you think, Kendra Williams. You wouldn't have survived this long if you weren't." In the car, a sleek black thing that probably cost more than a house, Kendra tried to calm her racing heart. Through the tinted windows, she watched Chicago slide by, the city transformed into something glittering and foreign. "Who will be there tonight?" she asked. "Everyone who matters in this city. Politicians, business leaders, socialites. Some of them are friends, most are rivals." Maximo's expression was unreadable. "They'll all want to know about you, who you are, where you came from, how we met. We need our story straight." They'd worked out the basics earlier, a chance meeting at the restaurant, a connection neither of them expected, a whirlwind romance that surprised them both. It was close enough to the truth to be believable, far enough to protect Kendra's real story. "What if someone recognizes me?" Kendra asked. "What if they know I was cleaning that restaurant 2 days ago?" "Then we own it. I fell in love with you despite our differences, or because of them. It makes the story more romantic, more real." The gala was held at the Drake Hotel, all old-world elegance and modern excess. As they pulled up, Kendra saw the photographers lined up, the red carpet stretching like a tongue ready to swallow them whole. "Ready?" Maximo asked. "No." He smiled, a real smile, not the calculated one he showed everyone else. "Good, that makes 2 of us." Then the door opened, and they stepped into the lights. The cameras were violence disguised as art, flashing, clicking, demanding. Kendra's smile felt like it would crack her face open, but Maximo's hand at the small of her back was steady, grounding. "Mr. Emiliano, who's your date?" "Maximo, is this serious?" "What's her name?" Maximo leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "Just breathe, you're doing perfectly." Inside, the ballroom was a cathedral of wealth. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across designer gowns and $1,000 suits. Kendra recognized faces from magazines, from news broadcasts, from the kind of life she'd only ever cleaned up after. Maximo, a woman in red silk, materialized, all sharp cheekbones and sharper. "Smile, you've been hiding from us. And who is this?" "Isabella," Maximo's voice carried warning. "This is Kendra Williams." Kendra, Isabella Martinelli. She runs the art gallery on Michigan Avenue. Isabella's eyes traveled over Kendra like a price scanner. Charming, how did you two meet? At my restaurant, Maximo said smoothly. Kendra was working there. I took one look at her and forgot every rational thought I'd ever had. The truth wrapped in lies. Kendra almost laughed. How romantic, Isabella said, in a tone that suggested it was anything but, and what do you do, Kendra, besides work in restaurants? The question was a trap. Kendra could feel it. I survive, she said simply. I take care of my daughter. Everything else is just details. Something shifted in Isabella's expression, respect, maybe, or surprise. A single mother, how authentic. She drifted away like expensive smoke. The evening became a blur of introductions, each one a small battle. Kendra met politicians who smiled with too many teeth, businessmen who undressed her with their eyes, socialites who measured her like competition. Through it all, Maximo stayed close, his presence a constant shield. Until Senator Richardson arrived. The man was late 60s, silver-haired, with the kind of smile that belonged on campaign posters and probably hid decades of corruption. He approached their table during dinner, whiskey in hand, power radiating off him like heat. Emiliano, he said, too loud. Heard you finally got yourself a woman. About time. Senator, Maximo's voice was ice. Richardson's eyes landed on Kendra. And this is her, the cleaning girl. He laughed, actually laughed. Christ, Maximo, I thought you had standards. The table went silent. Kendra felt blood drain from her face. Careful, Maximo said quietly. Oh, come on, we all know what this is. Richardson leaned closer, whiskey breath washing over them. A criminal playing house with hired help, you think. Anyone here believes this fairy tale? Kendra's hand trembled around her champagne glass. Every eye in their section was watching, waiting. Then Maximo stood, a slow, deliberate movement that carried threat in every inch, and smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Kendra had ever seen. Senator Richardson, Maximo said, voice soft as a knife sliding between ribs, I'm going to give you one chance to apologize to the woman I love. One. After that, I stop being civilized. Is that a threat? It's a courtesy. The FBI might protect you from me. His smile widened. But they can't protect you from what I know about your consulting fees, from Meridian Corp, the ones your wife doesn't know about, the ones the IRS would find fascinating. Richardson's face went gray. Now, Maximo continued, apologize to Kendra, then leave, and pray I forget this conversation happened. The senator stammered something that might have been an apology, then fled like his suit was on fire. Maximo sat back down, smoothed his napkin, and took a sip of wine as if nothing had happened, but his hand found Kendra's under the table, squeezing gently. Thank you, she whispered. No one insults you, ever. That's not negotiable. The rest of the evening passed in a haze. Kendra danced with Maximo, his hand firm on her waist, guiding her through steps she barely knew. Up close, she could smell his cologne, feel the controlled power in how he moved. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. You're doing well, he murmured. Everyone believes it. Do you? His eyes found hers. Believe what? That this could be real, that someone like you could want someone like me. For a moment, something flickered across his face, something unguarded and almost vulnerable. I think, he said slowly, that the world would be simpler if people like me stayed with people like me, safer, more predictable. His hand pressed against her lower back, but I've never been interested in Simple. The moment stretched, electric, dangerous. Then his phone buzzed. Maximo's expression changed instantly. All business, all ice. He checked the screen, and whatever he saw there made his jaw tighten. We need to leave, now. What's wrong? Your ex, Maximo said quietly, already guiding her toward the exit, just showed up at your apartment with a gun. Kendra's world tilted. Nia is safe, she's with her godmother, remember. But Derek ransacked your place looking for information about where you moved. Maximo's hand was steel on her elbow as they rushed through the hotel. My people have him contained, but Kendra, he stopped, turned her to face him. This ends tonight, one way or another. I need you to trust me. What are you going to do? What I should have done 2 days ago. Make sure Derek Mitchell never threatens you again. The drive back was silent, tense. Kendra's hands wouldn't stop shaking. When they arrived at a warehouse on the south side, not the penthouse, she knew this wasn't about calling the police. Inside, Derek was tied to a chair, blood already crusting under his nose. 2 of Maximo's men flanked him, silent as death. Kendra, Derek's voice cracked when he saw her. Baby, please, tell him this is crazy, tell him. Shut up, Maximo said conversationally. You broke into her home, terrorized her for months, threatened her child. He circled Derek like a predator. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? I just wanted to talk to her. She's the mother of my kid. You wanted to control her, own her, hurt her. Maximo stopped in front of Derek, his voice dropping to something lethal. And now you're going to disappear. Kendra's breath caught. Maximo. He turned to her. He knows where you live, where your daughter goes to school. He'll never stop, Kendra, you know that. So we have 2 choices. I make him stop permanently, or I make him wish he'd never been born but let him live. Your call. Although, warehouse went silent, except for Derek's whimpering. This was the moment, the choice that would define everything. Kendra looked at Derek, the man who'd stolen her savings, terrorized her nights, made her daughter afraid of shadows. The man who'd shown up with a gun. Make him disappear, she said, but not like that. Make him wish he'd never found me. Maximo's smile was slow, satisfied. He nodded to his men. You heard the lady. Derek Mitchell gets a new life in Alaska, on a fishing boat, with a debt to some very unpleasant Russians who will make sure he never leaves. He leaned close to Derek. Try to run and they'll kill you. Try to come back and I'll kill you, your choice. Derek sobbed. You can't. I can, I just did. Maximo straightened, took Kendra's hand. Get him out of here, on a plane by morning. Outside, in the car, Kendra finally let herself shake. Are you all right? Maximo asked. I don't know, I just sent someone to Alaska against their will. You protected your daughter. There's no shame in that. Is this who I am now? Someone who solves problems with violence? Maximo was quiet for a long moment. You're someone who survived. Whatever that requires, whatever that costs, you did what mothers do. You protected your child. Back at the penthouse, Kendra stood at the windows, watching dawn creep across the skyline. Behind her, Maximo poured coffee, the domestic gesture strange coming from him. What happens now? She asked. Now you're free. Derek's gone. The threat is over. But the arrangement. The arrangement stands if you want it to, or we end it now. Your choice. He handed her the coffee mug, their fingers brushing. What do you want, Kendra? She looked at him, really looked, at the man who'd protected her, threatened for her, given her the choice that mattered most. The dangerous, complicated, impossible man who somehow made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. I want, she said slowly, to finish what we started 6 months, but not just for protection anymore. Then for what? Kendra took a breath to see what this could actually be. Something like surprise crossed Maximo's face, then something warmer. "Well," he said softly, "that's unexpected." "Good," Kendra said. "I'm tired of predictable." His laugh was quiet, genuine, then were well matched. As sun flooded the penthouse, turning everything gold, Kendra realized she'd made her choice, not just to survive, but to actually live. The question was whether she'd survive what came next. 3 months later, Kendra had almost forgotten what normal felt like. She'd moved through Maximo's world like she belonged there: charity galas, business dinners, carefully choreographed public appearances where she played the perfect girlfriend. Francesca's lessons had stuck. She could walk in heels, charm politicians, and hold her own in conversations about art she'd never seen and wine she couldn't pronounce. But the strangest part, it wasn't entirely pretend anymore. Maximo had kept every promise. Derek hadn't contacted her once. Nia was thriving, still with Shanice during work trips, still believing her mother had simply gotten a promotion, and Maximo himself had become different, less guarded, almost warm. They had coffee together in the mornings. He asked about her day. She'd caught him smiling at her jokes, real smiles that crinkled his eyes. Once, she'd fallen asleep on his couch during a movie, and she'd woken to find him carrying her to bed, his touch gentle. "You don't have to," she'd murmured, half asleep. "I know," he'd said softly. "Sleep, Kara." The lines were blurring, dangerously. Then came the night everything shattered. Kendra was getting ready for another gala when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Is this Kendra Williams?" A woman's voice, cold and professional. "Oh, yes. This is Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. We need to talk about Maximo Emiliano." Kendra's blood turned to ice. "I don't. We know about the arrangement, Ms. Williams, the fake relationship, and we know you have access to his personal files, his home, his business dealings." A pause. "We want you to help us build a case against him." "No," the word came out automatic, fierce. "He's a criminal, money laundering, extortion, possibly worse. You seem like a good person, Ms. Williams, a good mother. Help us put him away and we'll protect you. Refuse, and when we take him down, and we will, you go down with him, as an accomplice." The call ended. Kendra stood frozen, phone trembling in her hand. She should tell Maximo. That was the logical thing, the safe thing. But a small voice whispered, "What if they're right? What if you've fallen for a monster?" She made it through the gala on autopilot, smiling, laughing, playing her part. But when they returned home, Maximo caught her wrist. "What's wrong?" "Well, nothing." Kendra, his eyes searched hers. "Don't lie to me, not you." Although words tumbled out before she could stop them. "The FBI called. They want me to inform on you, to help them build a case." Maximo went very still, and I said no, but Maximo, she pulled away. "What are you, really? Because I've been living in your world for 3 months and I still don't know where the legal business ends and the illegal begins. I don't know if I'm protecting myself or helping a criminal." "You want the truth," Maximo's voice was harsh. "Fine. Yes, I've done things that would make you sick. I've hurt people who deserved it and some who didn't. I've broken laws and bent others until they snapped. I'm not a good man, Kendra. I never pretended to be." "Then what am I doing here?" "I don't know." The admission seemed torn from him. This was supposed to be simple, business. But you, he stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "You made it complicated. You made me want things I'd convinced myself I didn't need." Like what? Like mornings with coffee and terrible jokes, like someone who sees me and doesn't flinch, like his voice dropped. Like you, Kendra, I want you, not the arrangement, not the protection deal. You. The air between them crackled. That's not part of the contract, Kendra whispered. To hell with the contract. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate, and nothing like the practiced touches they'd shared for cameras. Kendra kissed back, 3 months of tension and confusion and impossible feelings pouring out. When they broke apart, both breathless, Maximo pressed his forehead to hers. I can't promise I'm a good man, he said, but I can promise I'll never hurt you. Never. That's not negotiable. The FBI. I'll handle them, I always do. He cupped her face. But I need to know, is this real for you, or am I alone in this? Kendra thought of Derek, of fear, of running. Then she thought of Maximo teaching Nia's name in Italian, even though he'd never met her. Of him remembering she took her coffee with too much sugar, of the way he'd looked at her across a crowded room like she was the only person who mattered. It's real, she admitted. God help me, it's real. 2 weeks later, Kendra was reviewing restaurant schedules when Giuseppe appeared, face grave. Signorina, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. The woman waiting in the foyer was elegant, 50s, with Maximo's eyes. You must be Kendra, she said in accented English. I am Lucia Emiliano, Maximo's mother. Kendra's stomach dropped. He didn't mention that I was visiting. No, he wouldn't. Lucia's smile was knowing. My son keeps secrets like other men keep receipts. May we talk? Over espresso, Lucia studied her with unnerving intensity. So, you're the woman who tamed my son. I wouldn't say tamed. He sent me photos, called me Maximo, who never calls, to tell me about you, about your daughter, about how you make him laugh. Lucia leaned forward. Do you know what that means for a man like my son to laugh? Mrs. Emiliano. It means you've done what I thought impossible, made him human again. Her expression softened. But I must ask, do you love him, truly? Because if this is still the arrangement he told me about months ago, if you're using him. I love him, Kendra said, and realized it was true, completely, terrifyingly true. I didn't mean to. It wasn't supposed to happen, but yes, I love him. Lucia smiled, warm and genuine. Good, then you should know something about who my son really is. What she revealed made Kendra's world tilt. Maximo wasn't just a criminal who'd inherited an empire. He was an undercover asset, had been for 5 years, working with a select FBI unit to dismantle the real crime families from the inside. Every illegal deal he brokered fed information to federal agents. Every connection he made was monitored, recorded, used to build cases against the truly dangerous players. The restaurant, the businesses, there. Legitimate completely, the rest, Lucia shrugged. Theater, very dangerous theater, but theater nonetheless. My son risks his life every day to make this city safer, and he couldn't tell you because. Because the fewer people who know, the safer everyone is, Kendra finished, mind reeling. Oh my God. The FBI agent who contacted you, she's his handler. The call was a test to see if you'd betray him. You passed. Lucia stood. But now you know the truth. What you do with it is your choice. After she left, Kendra sat in stunned silence. When Maximo came home that evening, she was waiting. Your mother visited, she said. He froze. What did she tell you? Everything. Kendra stood, cross to him. Why didn't you tell me about what you really do? Because it's dangerous, because the less you knew, the safer I'd be, I know. she took his hands. But Maximo, I fell in love with who I thought was a criminal. What does that say about me? That you see people not there. Worst moments, but who they could be. He pulled her close. I was going to tell you, when the 6 months ended, when I could finally be honest about everything. The 6 months ended last week, Kendra pointed out. Our contract is done. I know. So what now? Maximo's smile was slow, real, devastating. Now, we stop pretending. We do this for real, no contracts, no arrangements. Just you, me, and whatever mess comes next, if you'll have me. Kendra thought of everything she'd learned, everything she'd survived, of the impossible man who'd protected her, challenged her, made her brave. Yes, she said, but on one condition. Well, name it. You meet my daughter, because if we're doing this for real, Nia needs to know who you are. No more secrets. Something soft crossed his face, vulnerability, hope. I'd be honored. He kissed her then, and this time there was no performance, no audience. Just them, real and messy and impossibly right. 6 months. Later, Kendra stood in the same restaurant where this had all begun, watching Nia carefully arrange flowers on tables for the charity dinner Maximo was hosting. Her daughter wore a dinosaur t-shirt under her fancy dress, a compromise they'd learned to make. Mom, Nia called. Max says I can help greet people. Maximo appeared, ruffling Nia's hair with the ease of practice. Only if your mother approves. Kendra's heart swelled. The feared Mafia boss, the undercover hero, brought to his knees by a 6-year-old obsessed with paleontology. Approved, she said. As guests arrived, Kendra thought about the journey, from terrified janitor to this, to safety, to love, to a future she'd never imagined possible. She'd sat on a stranger's lap to escape her nightmare and somehow found her dream. What are you thinking? Maximo murmured, wrapping an arm around her waist. That life is ridiculous. Agreed. That I love you. Also agreed. He kissed her temple, though I might be biased. Across the room, Nia was explaining plate tectonics to a bewildered senator. Shanice was laughing with Lucia, and Kendra, survivor, mother, accidental queen of an underworld that didn't exist, was finally, impossibly home. Sometimes salvation came in the strangest packages. Sometimes it wore expensive suits and whispered promises in Italian. Sometimes you had to be crazy enough to trust it. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, crazy was exactly what you needed.